Okay, good morning, everybody. It's nice to be here. I hope you got more a Christmas present more than just a lump of coal. If you get a lump of coal, you've been a naughty boy. I didn't get anything. Hey, hang on. Where's my Christmas presents? Everybody forgot me. I just realized I didn't even get a lump of coal. I must have been so bad. Very good. Does anybody has anything came up as any question from yesterday or anything about Dhamma per se or Buddhism? I was surprised how many people came yesterday afternoon. There was just a lot of people. Afternoon seemed to be the more popular yesterday. Anytime something comes up, and we have the Q&As always, so anything comes up, even if it doesn't come now, you can ask later. Please feel free to ask simple questions. There is no like silly questions and all that. There's just sometimes people feel that there's like I shouldn't be asking simple questions, and anything is good. Sometimes I get the best questions from the children when I'm going to teach the kids. I remember one time one of the kids asked, for example, he asked us like, well, okay, you say that there is all this rebirth and we could be born as anything and there's so many rebirths. Does it mean that we could have been reborn as one time as a dinosaur? Have we all been dinosaurs at one point? See, like I like those kind of questions. It's just sometimes kids they can think outside the box. Adults we get so stuffed up sometimes, thinking very, in terms of just like here and now, very technical questions. And I actually I thought it was a good question. I actually discussed this with Ajahn Brahmali, our great scholar monk, and. Oh, have we been dinosaurs? What's my answer? See, yeah, that's good. Okay, so you want to know if we've been dinosaurs? Well, I did tell the boy that most likely, there's like, in my opinion, when I was in, I just quickly thought about it, that if there was no humans available, right? The rebirth process starts, the craving starts, that you want to be. And that starts the process, right? And there is no human realm, there's no humans available on Earth. Like, well, maybe you do get born as a dinosaur. So maybe you were a dinosaur in the past. Okay, that's one possibility. As just to answer for a little child. And I thought, I was like, yeah, it could have been really easy. And then I asked the boy, like, maybe do you think you were T-Rex? And he thought it was like something else. I can't remember which one he'd rather be, but so then I discussed with Ajahn Brahmali, and the more technical answer, which you want to hear, being a technical-minded person, is that perhaps we are so used to being in this kind of certain realm that dinosaur would be a bit difficult to get reborn as a dinosaur, because it's sort of like you think it's quite a low birth. It's sort of like it's hard to imagine us getting born as a lizard these days. It's a little bit of the same. But at that time there was no humans available, right? On Earth, and you could have been born in an alternative place, like Devaloka or something. It's just because wasn't available to be human. So that's what Ajahn Brahmali was speculating that. And there is a train of thought which Ajahn Brahmali sometimes says that it seems to be that there is possibilities that we have the alternative, not so much like parallel universes, but universes which we know they exist, like that maybe our Dhamma, our Buddha, got born into this solar system, what we have here. And we live in this reality, so to speak. But maybe there is possibility you could have been born into another solar system, so to speak. I mean, these get in. There's nothing like that discussed in the Dhamma, but I mean, it's a valid question actually to ask. Like, what if there's no humans available? What about this kind of questions? Like, even like, what point, like humanity starts, so to speak? Like, where is that kind of like idea of consciousness start? It starts when you start like rolling that kind of question. Like, we believe in evolution, right? As a Buddhist, we don't have a problem with it. And we know now that humans are, it's not just one species, as different species came together perhaps that, made Homo sapiens. And I don't have personally, it's like, yeah, it's good. I understand it, or, I believe the scientist. And then, but could have been there, could have you have been reborn as a different kind of like, which is close to Homo sapiens, that when we were just walking, Homo erectus, for example, or what are the other, sapiens, Neanderthal, and we have a certain percentage of Neanderthal in our DNA, and I think it's in that sense. I think it's starting to get close that we were, as rebirth processes go, it would have been very possible to get reborn into those kind of beings, so to speak, because the consciousness starts to be very much in our level. And the interesting thing, sometimes also people ask this question because in the Dhamma it is said that it's very rare to get human rebirth. To get born as a human is like very precious, and the Buddha gives a simile. It's like a blind turtle going into the big ocean, and every 100 years it comes up and pokes its head through the surface, and there happens to be a yolk floating on the, let's say what do you call a life? What do they throw when you're drowning? Life raft, buoying that thing, and then it's like the turtle comes and puts a head through that, and it's just that kind of like is like such an opportunity to get born as a human, and then there's like all these questions. Well, what about there's so many humans these days? Like, it doesn't seem to be so rare. But look, we don't have to go far in the past, and there wasn't so many humans available, and obviously now we have whatever, we're cutting close to 9 billion, but. Is, for me, again, it's not said in the sutras anywhere, but it seems to be that when you are at the certain realm, you just got used to something, you are in that cycle of rebirth for quite a long time, meaning you get born as a human, and then you just have this habit of getting born as a human. The craving is towards that plane. Even a lot of people say, they say, I wish when somebody dies, I wish they get born in a Devaloka. To get born in the Devaloka, or even, past that, if they say like they had a lot of metta, maybe they get born in the Metaloka and Brahmaloka, that it's really difficult for me to see that your mind would be so pure that you wouldn't, perhaps Devalokas which are close to humans, quite easy to get born, because the devas seem to be very close to us, and they have very, very similar kind of, let's say, human traits. But it is very, very likely that we just get born into this kind of same realm. And again, that going into the simile, why it's difficult to get human realm, but imagine if you're an animal, how difficult to get out of that cycle. Because if you're a kangaroo, it's just, you don't know any better. Grass is good. Very occasionally you get nice pizza when you're in a Bodhinyana. So look, to get out of that cycle, it is easy to understand. It is difficult to gain enough that the consciousness, I don't know if the consciousness evolves, or there's the wisdom arises enough that you start moving, you move along in this kind of hierarchy. It's just difficult for me to see. I think once we're in a certain loka, a certain place, it seems to be that your consciousness has a certain kind of attributes, and we move as a humans. We go perhaps into this between the here and Devaloka, and perhaps the like a little bit higher in the Brahmaloka, and then you feel bad, and then you can fall into the hell realms or in the ghost realms. But so it seems to be that humans we go back and forth in this kind of into these kind of mostly in this certain kind of places. But to get born as a long really long answer into that, whether you're being a dinosaur, is just most likely not. It doesn't seem to be very easy to get born into that kind of really different kinds of animals. But who knows? I mean, it's a long time. Maybe there is an evolution and the wisdom starts arising and the consciousness, the level of consciousness starts arising. Maybe it is possibility. Bill.
According to the Jatakas, even the Buddha was born as an animal quite often.
It is true, and now Jatakas, sometimes how much truth there in the Jatakas, there was like the interesting stories, and don't disqualify them. And also, when I've read some of those rebirth, sort of overriding my own answer now that I'm thinking now that children who remember their past lives or those kind of stories, there is sometimes stories where children remember that they were like, for example, a snake in the village. I remember just reading not too long ago, I read a story about this one, it was a Thai boy, this was recorded in 60s, I think, in Thailand, and he said he was hunted down by a hunter and he bit the hunter because like he was a snake, and he could even point out the place he bit the hunter as a snake. Interesting. Yeah. Did you want to continue? Do you want to take the microphone, Lehar? You want? Yeah. So maybe it is not far-fetched to be an animal. Yeah.
Yeah, Ajahn, it's interesting that you brought out this thing about evolution, because personally, even though I think I'm a very devout Buddhist, I do have difficulty in the Buddhist Genesis story.
Yeah.
Of course, that's in the Digha Nikaya, right? I mean, and then because everything, as you say, there's no realm to support, and everybody went up to the second jhana realm, right? Mm-hmm. For a long time, we enjoyed that, and then we thought that our life was too good, and then slowly degenerated to the first jhana realm.
Right.
And then after that, we thought that was too good again, and took a liking on solid food, right?
Yep.
And then
you fall because
we come down to this so-called Jambudvipa, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, of course, we know Jambudvipa, there's dinosaurs and so on, but there's never mentioned in the sutta. And then we talk about humans with extremely long lifespan.
Yeah.
Really extremely long.
Yep.
And, they are very pure, they naturally observe the 5 precepts or whatever, and so on. Slowly degenerate, yeah?
And then you like...
And then the lifespan got reduced, something like that, until we reach this point. And then, of course, we talk about the Buddha talk about the previous Buddha, the Buddha Kassapa, right?
Mm-hmm.
And talking about not so long ago, in my opinion, because talk about the same place, this is the place, and this is the thing, this is an idiom carried down from the time of the Buddha Kassapa, but people start to misinterpret it, that kind of thing. Right, that's in the Majjhima Nikaya. Right?
You mean it misinterpret the Dhamma, and then the Dhamma starts
disappearing. Health is the greatest wealth, right?
Yep, Dhamma starts disappearing.
Oh, this is my health. No, that was during the Buddha Kassapa, when he said health, he meant attaining jhana. That's a real health, not just bodily health, That's in Majjhima Nikaya. Yeah? And the problem is, then when I look at in the sutta, the lifespan of the Buddha Kassapa, that was like really long. I mean, I think about 90,000 years, that kind of typical medium lifespan or whatever, but we've never seen that on Earth, right?
Yeah.
So that's my difficulty with the Genesis story.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that as a Buddhist to have faith in these things. How do I actually interpret this? Like, I take myself to be a Buddhist, and yet we have these things which are just difficult to sort of square up with that what we have now. It is true. It's hard to say how long these things were in the past. For example, like the different Buddhas, like how far in the past they were. Maybe they were before the dinosaurs, and maybe they, and then it's just to wrap your head around this kind of idea that systems come and go, that there is or that they, like, even the universe ending is just, it's impossible to think the span of it. But even if you think that there were different Buddhas in the earth, with the idea, you can think about Digha Nikaya, the long discourses, in this way, that it was almost seems to be that, this is from Bhikkhu Bodhi, not my idea, but Bhikkhu Bodhi says that it was almost like for him it looks like these suttas were given to other people who weren't Buddhist, to sort of give them ideas of sort of, so they can relate to them. It's like, I don't know how to put it. What did he, I'm trying to paraphrase Bhikkhu Bodhi, but he's saying that it's Digha Nikaya itself. It seems to be that it's aimed at other people than Buddhist. A lot of those stories are there for that. Sure. I'm not sure what to say, and I'm like sure I would struggle myself with those ideas as well. But I mean, the good thing about as a Buddhist, ask question and try to ponder about these things and see how you square it in your own life. But we have to remember that Dhamma should not be used as too much of speculation, and we always have to remember what's the point of all of this. Well, it is to lived experience is the path that where we should put the effort. I actually said yesterday, this is from the Bhikkhu Bodhi, and I can repeat it. I'm not putting down any of those doubts and all that, and doubt is the Dhamma as the path. In approaching the Dhamma, it is necessary to cultivate the right attitude and intentions. We should not view the Dhamma as formulated creed that demands to be accepted on faith, nor as a mere system of ideas to be played with intellectually. The Dhamma is essentially a path that leads to the realization of truth and immediate experience. The doctrines are pointers. The teachings are pointers, aids to awaken our own understanding and open our eyes of wisdom. The Buddha's teachings are based on his own realization of truth, not speculation, and are present to help us share in that same insight. The Dhamma is described as opanayiko, leading onwards to the deepening realization, and jnānika, or emancipating. The realization must take place within our own experience. We must walk the path ourselves. No one can walk it for us. The formulated Dhamma guides our effort, acting as a map that points out what must be understood. The Buddha compares the Dhamma to a raft used to cross the river. The raft is for the purpose of crossing over, not for holding on to or worshipping. We use the raft to move from our present state of bondage and suffering to the near shore, to the state of absolute freedom, nibbana, the farther shore. Because of this practical orientation, the Buddha dismisses purely speculative concerns as irrelevant. So, why didn't the Buddha teach a lot of these things? Why did he teach to begin with? That's the question also. Why isn't there in the suttas? Again, we can just sort of like leave it aside. Well, like I cannot square it up. I can ask question, and I can see that it loses me to have doubts. So you work more with that doubt, leave them aside,
Well,
and keep
I've always left them aside.
yeah, and
until I-
keep asking questions as you do, and I do the same, and so that's what we do most of the time. A lot of us Buddhists, we just have to take it as that's what it is.
But I do know that Ajahn Brahm takes it quite seriously.
Ajahn Brahm, yes,
Yeah,
Ajahn
he
Brahm
talks
has a
about-
lot of faith.
He talks about, yes, there was a time when everything cannot support life.
Yeah.
Everybody, even from the hellish realm, will go to the second jhana. It's a free goal, man.
And when you mean about that, it means that when the universe it has collapsed, and there is this where what we consider the universe as such now, the only thing you can sustain life so that the consciousness is this in the second jhana. That's right.
Yeah.
So we do talk about universes coming and going as well, and yeah. So nice, good. Okay, next question. Looks like we just going with questions this morning. That's fine.
I don't want to take it too far into biology, but I'm really surprised to hear that you don't have a problem with evolution. Is this something we could go into?
That I don't have a problem with evolution. Why? I'm just saying that yes, personally, I don't have any problem with it, and as a Buddhist, it doesn't sort of. It's not against the faith, so to speak, or the Dhamma, what the Buddha was teaching. So we don't see it as a problem.
Well, there's always the general problem that if you imagine the development of an eye,
Yeah.
the eye is only an evolutionary advantage once it's finished.
Yeah.
But the 10,000 or something steps before that, it's not an advantage, but really a disadvantage, because you have this
Yeah.
unfinished thing that you're carrying around. So how does an eye finish, evolutionary speaking? And that's the same with basically all the organs, and most of the big evolutionary things, like an eye or like you can play that game anywhere.
Sure.
So
Why wouldn't we have a problem with it though? Like,
because that basically says that it cannot be by the way evolution is theorized. Because there would not be an eye, because every single step in the development of an eye would have to be an evolutionary advantage for there to be the next step.
okay, sure. So you're not saying, you're not really speculating about Dhamma. You are more talking about for you personally. You are struggling with the idea of evolution. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but because it doesn't make sense if every step has to be an evolutionary
Advantage, right.
advantage.
Well, look, I don't know if I have that much to say about that, because that is your own, how you view as evolution. But as far as I'm concerned, I never thought about it so deeply in that sense that I'm just probably taking it as truth from what I've been taught in the schools. So, yeah.
I'm always surprised because I'm not really thinking that's very deep, but very obvious. But so it's
but even nonetheless, if we think about that evolution, that humanity started as a different species, for example, even if we don't go that far, that evolution of eye developing or the reproduction of humans and all of those things, that if we just take that as this different species were at the time, and then the Homo sapiens came to be from that I don't have any problem with that, for example. But you took it to really quite far with that evolution. Interesting. Good questions. Yep. All right.
Can I ask a quick question, Ajahn?
Sure.
With hell, it can be quite scary to read about hell in the suttas.
Sorry?
It can be very scary to read about hell in the suttas.
Right.
What's a good way to think about it in our practice, and how much time should we kind of think about it, or
Yeah.
use that concept in our practice?
Yeah, I mean, look, Ajahn Brahm is brilliant. As you know, he always teaches that the gates of the hell are always open. And it's like when you can think about it this way, that it's first of all, we mostly good. It's really to get born in a hell realm. It's like what happens is like you have to experience your karma no matter what. You die, and then you sort of go through your experiences in life, and you don't just see from your perspective what you've done. You see it from the perspective of others as well. And if you feel yourself, like you look at, there is an image given in the sutras that if you look at into a mirror, and then it's like, and you it actually comes the next, not that like the 3 warnings comes there. It's part of that same sutta, is that you go through that, but you never really reflected on your life, and then it comes to that point where you have to see it, you have to look at it. And when you look at that mirror and it's like you feel that you want to go to hell, well, you go to hell. It's just nobody else is condemning you there. It's just you yourself want to go there, basically. You feel like you want to be punished. So you can see that in that sense, that it's like if you work on it in this life, you just sort of like, well, I don't need to punish myself. Like you keep working on it. So you sort of like, you are not even going to that direction because of that already. But we definitely, as a Buddhist, we shouldn't think about the hell in the sense that there's like, as other religions do, that it's just it's everlasting. For example, that's not. It's not that. So, if you feel like you need to go there because you committed a act which you feel like you want to get punished, it won't last long, because usually those acts are quite small. And anyways, you do a lot of other things, so you water down those things what you've done. So you've done a lot of good things. So. To contemplate hell, there's not many things said in the sutras about contemplating the hell. Obviously it is there as a teaching that hell exists. There's different realms of hell. So, what do you think? What's the scary part of it?
Well, the way it's described, it sounds like a torturous place where you can go for a long time. In some of the sutras it talks about.
But then long time would be that because of then you've done something like really which you feel like you need to stay there for a long time. But for example, in your life, I've known you a long time and you've been here many years with us as well. Like, would you feel like you deserve to go there?
No. I think I've lived pretty well in this life. and there's a little probably worry that goes, well, what if you did something in your past life and it ripens?
Right.
Like this,
That's a good point. That's a good point. Actually, yeah, karma could ripen in interesting ways. What if you've done? That's actually, it's sort of, that propels us sort of like, if you, in that sense, it's a good question, because that gives you the impetus, so to speak, like, well, I don't know. There's no, security. Even if I've been a good person this life, what I've done in the past. So, like, past goes so far. It's sort of like it should give you a little bit of impetus. Well, let's get out of here. This life seems to be okay for us. We're in Australia. Everything is going well for us. A lot of food, prosperity, peace, but we don't know what we've done in the past. Yeah. Good point. Well, then think about it as sort of like, well, even if his life is good now, I better get out of here. Don't hang around. Don't just think as like, well, I just get reborn. What's the problem? I could go to hell. Maybe it's good for you. Think about it. You could go to hell.
Queen Malika only went to hell for 7 days.
Yeah, I know she did, and but the thing is, like, when there's a lot of suffering, even 7 days might feel like a long time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a small cut could be like in you. Yeah. Wow. Okay. More question.
Just to quench my doubt, since this was raised, so the Buddha talks about Yama, right?
Talks
The
about
Yama.
Yama.
The-
Yeah.
the-
And it's coming actually.
king of
Next
the
3
hell,
warnings coming.
Who judge, yeah? Yeah. To my understanding, it seems like a unique Buddhist concept. Is that right?
I don't think so. I'm not expert. You should ask somebody like Pandit Suchado about yamas, whether we took it from the ideas before. Yep. If that was the question?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Good. I have an answer. I don't know. As far as I sort of understand it, I think we adopted the idea from the Brahmanical ideas. Oh, okay, good. Just so people, because you. Yes, look, I haven't studied it, that whether the others had it, but I doubt it just came as a Buddhist. It could be also that it's a later idea and it was incorporated in the suttas. Again, we're going into the speculative ideas that maybe Buddhism, we had to keep up with the other religions. So let's just take this idea, we incorporate it into a suttas, possibility, or that they adopted from the others, possibility, or it could be that the Buddha just saw it and, we take it as the Buddha saw that there is such a thing as yama. He asked the monks to record it, and it's like, I've seen it with my understanding, and we could take it that way. So there's different possibilities. Yeah. Okay. Yesterday was Christmas, so we tried to stay away from too much suffering, but today is Boxing Day. Gloves are off. We're gonna after this we're gonna tell you all about it, like why you don't want to get reborn, even if like it's not every day can't be Christmas. Okay, here we go. Actually, I don't have that much time, so we can meditate a little bit. So from the Samyutta Nikaya, there you can see again the numbers on the left. If you ever want to find these, you can go on in the Sutta Central, for example. One who seeks reality in perception seeks only illusions. Yesterday we went through the khandas. One who seeks for illusions, I say, is not freed from suffering. One who seeks contentment in will, in your choices, you only seek frustration. One who seeks frustration, I say, is not freed from suffering. One who seeks eternity in consciousnesses only seeks affliction of more rebirth. One who seeks rebirth, I say, is not freed from suffering. From Dhammapada, why this laughter, why this joy, when it's ever burning, shrouded all about in gloom? Won't you look for light? Look at this attention-demanding body. A mass of irritations, constantly needing support, prone to illness, with nothing stable or lasting. This body gets worn out, so fragile, an incubator for disease. When life ends in death, this disappointing body dissolves. And then this is actually from, somebody dies and they go and see this friend of ours we just talked about, Yama. 3 warnings. Yama is talking. But my friend, didn't you ever see a man or a woman, 80 years of age or more, frail, sickly, struggling to walk, even with the walking frame? With many complained, strength gone, with false teeth, with grey hair, or a wig. These are Ajahn Brahm's translations. With wrinkled skin and blotched limbs and forgetful. Yama's asking, my friend, didn't it occur to you, an intelligent and mature person? I too am subject to old age. I am not exempt from old age. Let me now do good kamma while I still can by body, speech and mind. But friend, didn't you ever see a man or a woman sick, moaning, gravely ill, bedridden, incontinent? My friend, didn't it occur to you, an intelligent and mature person? I too am subject to illness. I am not exempt from illness. Let me now do good karma while I still can, by body, speech and mind. But my friend, didn't you ever see among human beings a dead man or woman in a coffin about to be cremated or buried? And the next page. My friend, didn't it occur to you, an intelligent and mature person, I too am subject to death. I'm not exempt from death. Let me now do good karma while I still can, by body, speech and mind. So it acts as a reminder, like, if you think it's like you just got a bit heedless, you don't have mindfulness, what's the point of trying to study the Dhamma? What's the point of getting out of samsara? Life is good. Nibbana can wait. I can just enjoy now. I can just speculate, and with wisdom I can, do all kind of good things. You're not yet gone past the point of getting sick, old age and dying. And so sometimes, quite often, we see this like old age, and not just for ourselves. We see how our parents have suffering. We see our loved ones have suffering, old age, sicknesses and all that. And obviously we see it in our own bodies. But we don't reflect it enough that this is what is expected. You're not going to be outside of that. So please reflect these things like the old age, sickness and death. That is the point why the Buddha went forth from the home life to homelessness. That's why that is the problem we have here. The Buddha didn't have just like, well, I find eternal happiness somewhere in some heaven realm. These things exist here and now, and we should use these as teachings. And this is exactly the suffering what we just have to face in this life. It's sort of unfortunate, but that's how it is. Myself, I've been reminded this very clearly with my father being very sick, being very able person, doing all those, running a business, this and that, being the head of the family, so to speak. And now he cannot do anything. He's just in diapers, seeing all these things, how it's with the as we all know how painful it is even for the family to see that kind of person, or when they lose their memory, they cannot do anything for themselves. But then it is sort of acts as a reminder, well, I haven't gone past that myself, perhaps. I should now do at least good karma by body, speech and mind. And it's not just to do good in a sense that was like you get something something back. Why we should do good karma by body, speech and mind is that we're lessening our sense of self more and more, and we try to get out of this cycle rebirth. It's not like you can bank this good karma, good deeds in a sense that it's like, oh, I just get born in a heavenly realm and then it's over like that. No, it doesn't work that way. You haven't gone outside of the samsara yet. That's not the point of doing good, just for goodness sake. It feels good, and like I said yesterday, I like this Ajahn Brahm's saying where he says, to go to no self, to go from low self-esteem to no self-esteem is impossible. So you have to have a good self-esteem to go to the point of no self, so like no self-esteem. So you cultivate goodness in with your body, speech and mind. You do good things, and then from there you can start disappearing. So people don't realize that if you have, like, for example, a low self-esteem, it's a heavy burden. It's something which makes you really makes a really solid sense of you, which is really difficult to leave behind. So do good, and then you can start disappearing from the samsara. And now it's time for the first meditation for 10 minutes, and then we talk about the beginningless of the samsara. So 10-minute break. If you want to discuss, please go outside. Here, if you can meditate, that would be great. We're getting close to the end of the meditation. Now, one more time, please look at the breath. You're still alive. You can do good karma by just observing the breath, dropping the idea of sense of self. This breath can be with you even when you are about to die. And then breathe 3 more times in and out before ending the meditation. That's the end of the meditation. Again, we can have a little discussion. There will be a longer meditation during the lunchtime, so if you have anything, if you want to meditate longer, please, you can stay here during the lunchtime, but we still have about 40 minutes left in the morning session. It goes quickly. Is there anything to be said about old age, sickness and death? If not, there's one question.
It's not necessary about all sickness and death. It's more about the questions before about the health. So the way I see it is, there is a concept that the evolution of the individual is the same as the evolution of a species. So you appear, you are young, you get in power, you get old, age, sick, and death, and disappear. So the evolution of an individual is the same as the evolution of a species. So the species initially appears, it's strong, it gets stronger, then maybe decays because of corruption or whatever, moral decay. And so from my point of view, the hell which you are mentioning is the hell which you can live right now. It's about being a ghost. So would you agree that this is the afterlife? So what we are living now is the afterlife because it's the continuation of previous lives.
Yeah, it is. I mean, sure. We can see that in this body and mind, we can see the end, so to speak, and it's like we can see everything in this life. If that's what it means. Sure, we can see that like suffering. It almost like we can get a glimpse of what the hell is, and we can get a glimpse of what heaven is. In that sense, that is, yes, and that's why we can understand it. I mean, and obviously that's, or that should be quite obvious that for all of us. And then the evolution part, I'm not sure I follow you, but it's like, yeah, we could perhaps see the evolution as well, that we appear and then we evolve, so to speak, in this lifetime. Yeah. Good, thank you. I'm not sure if I have anything more to say about that. But perhaps with the Conrads, with the hell, it's the nice thing is even if you practice in this life, you're lessening the possibility of going to hell because the wisdom grows. So you understand that the gates of hell are open. So the wisdom has, if you grow in this lifetime, that kind of compassion, you have more and more compassion towards yourself, and that continues. That you are actually doing a lot of good karma in this lifetime. So the possibility of going to hell is lesser and less. And then also that the time you spend there is less and less because you just sort of like, wow, I don't belong here. But sure, the karma, samsara is a long time. It's a long cycle, which I will come next into samsara. Conrad, there's this one lady here. She wanted to ask. Thank you. Yeah.
Ajahn,
Yeah.
in the Rohitasa Sutra,
Yeah.
the Buddha says in this fathom-long body is the cosmos.
Yes.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Well, that's the thing. I was like, nice. Thank you. And that's why I was alluding to. That's why I was referring to that. It's basically in this body and mind we see that the whole. We see the cosmos. We see the beginning and end. I mean, this is where it's going to be all ending. This is where we can see the suffering. This is where we can see that it's like there was a monk who went into tried to find the answer to all of this. From the edges of the universe, where is this wisdom to be found? And the Buddha said, well, it's actually here, and in this body and mind, we can see the end to all of this suffering. There's like end to the samsara. We don't need to look any further. We don't need to speculate about. We can speculate, but we don't really need to think about too much about evolution or heavens and hells and that where is it going to be all ending? It ends here and now in this body and this mind. There is nothing. We don't need to go any further than this. So it is in that sense. It points into that you as you can understand it. You don't have to have any like. You don't need to have any. You don't need to be any smarter. You don't need to have any special body. You don't need to. You are good. It's good enough what you have here. You have all the tools, so to speak, to get enlightened. And then to end all of this is, yes, it's within this body and mind. Perhaps there's more eloquent way of understanding, but I think in simplicity, I think that's good enough to say that way.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Okay.
One more, Ajahn?
Oh, one more. Okay, yeah, please. It's not like we're rushing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This might be a heretical question, but following on from what you just said, how integral is the notion of reincarnation to a solid Buddhist practice?
Are you asking? Do you have to believe in rebirth to?
Yeah, in essence, is it? Can one achieve full and rich Buddhist practice without ascribing to?
You don't have to be
a literal interpretation.
You don't have to have what do they call that? Like you when you used to join a party, you were like there's a name for that. You are like a book holding party member, like something like that. You have to sign. Do you have to sign up to be a Buddhist in order to get enlightened? Well, look, what happens slowly. Do you want to continue on that before I start speaking over? Do you want to say anything else?
Not only that there seems to be, and perhaps intentionally, some contradictions or ambiguity on the notion. You spoke a moment ago about the reality of our present body and an attainment of enlightenment in this form. But it seems that there's a lot of discourse around previous lives and future lives, and I suppose having grown up in a 20th century scientific enlightened culture, those ideas are very far away from me. And
yeah. I mean, look, okay, and I definitely know what you're asking, and it's a very common question. It comes often, especially amongst us Westerners, and it's not like I signed up to sort of to be a Buddhist from the day one. As soon as I came across Buddhist teachings, the Dhamma, and then it's like, oh yeah, I take all of this with the rebirth and all of those, and I'm happy with it. It doesn't work that way either. But you just sort of like, there's different ways of coming to that, and it's to sort of no, you don't need to believe in any of this just to be a meditator. You don't need to. You can just be a meditator and practice mindfulness, practice kindness, practice generosity. Like you be in that sense. It's as good as Buddhist as anybody is. But if you look at the Buddhist teachings, like sometimes I see it as gears, like in the gearbox in a big machine, and there's like, we have all these gears, and they're moving each other, and like you do things like, oh well, look, I can just take this one gear off from there and it will be fine. Look, Buddhist teaching will work. And there are teachers who teach, for example, that the rebirth is not, you can take out of the Buddhist teaching, it doesn't matter. In that sense, no, it doesn't matter. You can be Buddhist and absolutely just leave it aside. For us, some other thing comes later, and perhaps that this cosmology, and when you start reading into the origin stories, how the universe is started and the human lifespans, there's a lot of things which is like, well, I can't believe in that one. Well, then just leave that aside. For you, it's like you are now starting, for you it would be the rebirth. And then you read something else like, oh no, I don't want to take that either. But it's sort of like you, but if you look at the Buddhist teaching, if you take that teaching of rebirth, it's such an integral part of it. If you just say that, okay, I just believe in birth in a sense that I just came to being from nowhere, I just appeared here from mom and dad, they came together, and as a baby was born, and there was nothing before that, and then when I die, I go into abyss, nothingness. That's the nihilistic way of idea. You can live like that, and Buddha himself, he said, look, we are very close to being nihilistic in that sense that there is nothing beside what you have here and now. But why you want to practice? Because you see suffering here and now, and you see the lessening of your suffering here and now. That is good enough reason. But trying to go back to that idea of gears, if you take that idea of like, I just take that rebirth out of there, nothing moves. You cannot take one gear out of that whole system and think everything works. No, it doesn't work. If you look at Buddhist teachings, if you take that out there, rebirth, it's just like the whole thing stops moving. None of those teachings work. You cannot they don't work together. So in that sense, like, we have to take it in as like, and if you go further into Buddhism and Dhamma, so to speak, that you can start toying with that idea that is like, how can I approach this perhaps that I don't struggle with it so much, that I don't have to stop coming to the Buddhist society, stop meditating, just like looking into it. Because the worst thing for what I've seen sometimes, people just get so frustrated, it was like, no, I can't, I don't want nothing to do with them. Because they think they believe in this rebirth, and then you just walk away and you stop practicing, so to speak. And I've seen people like that as well. Like they were sort of like, it's like, maybe I could, like, I like Buddhism, spirituality, and it's peaceful religion, so to speak. But I don't want to be the book carrying member. To be converted into something. We don't expect anybody to convert into anything. We're just like asking questions, and that's the way you come come closer and closer to see how it works for you. But is there anything else I want to say about common question, rebirth? A lot of people struggle with it. I struggle with it myself, and I've like slowly you just sort of take it on board, and you're just like, I don't have a problem with it anymore. And I'm sure like a lot of people have the same problem, especially as Westerners. We didn't grow up in that culture. But you can come to Ajahn Brahm teaches sort of like you can look at it in the point of view of science, that it's like if there is research being done that rebirth must exist and it's all like undeniable, or but again, I mean, look, you don't just take it on board as you wish. Yeah.
Does it need to be a literal interpretation of rebirth, as in I am going to be physically born again, or can it be a momentary? And
the momentary idea is some teachers teach that it's misinterpretation in in sort of strict Buddhist sense, but fine. I mean, if you take it as like, 1 minute later you are different again, so you could say like, well, that could be a rebirth process. Your mind is every time what comes to your mind, your idea, like, well, that new mind moment, that could be considered as a rebirth process. The Buddha didn't teach that, but you can take that. Yeah, that's fine. I remember some of my teachers used when I started 21 years ago, they were saying that is how you can take rebirth, but that's not what the Buddha was teaching. But I'm fine with it. Yeah. But rebirth, it is actually considered as who you are now. You can see that you have evolved since childhood. We talked about evolution here. Since you were a little baby and young and teenager and a bit older now, and then so you can see that you are you. There's something you-ness there, but it's ever changing. It's constantly sort of evolving and changing because of the environment, because of where you are and how do you with the environment, and then you're getting older. And the same that sort of that you-ness is sort of like you recognize you, and that it doesn't disappear even on death. That's how you can see that it's like even as like body dies, but then the mind continues as you are you now. There's nothing solid there, is changing, and it's like moving along, but there is that kind of stream, what we sometimes call it, that stream continues. But it's constructed by different things like the environment and the karma from the past, what we call the karma, the deeds you've done in the past, and then that sort of shapes that stream. So it's not, there's no really you-ness in there, but it's, so that you can sort of come to think about that sense of self in that sense, that way as well. Like we talked about yesterday we went for a long time about free will, whether Buddhism there is free will, and easy answer is no, there is no free will in Buddhism. It just cannot, it just doesn't work. And we talked about how you can translate that will into like it's choices. You're choosing. You think you choose. You have free choosing, but it's just conditioned. And you can think about, for example, if you see something and you actually want to see it either as a beautiful or ugly, you are changing your perception. Like let's say you have a beautiful girlfriend and she's really nice, and you choose to see her like through the rose tinted glasses, like everything is nice about her, or your partner, whatever, and then 6 months later she turns out to be something like you really hate her, and then it's still the same person, but you choose to see her differently. It is just sort of like where is the free will there? It's just conditioned. So like you think you're making these choices out of like somehow freely, but it's sort of like it is just conditions. So where is that freeness there? It's not free. So in that sense, you just start taking this sense of self, start taking it apart, and also you see that how this stream of, it continues from life to life as well. So you start toying with that idea, like maybe that rebirth is possibility because I can see that I'm ever changing. It's just this kind of like ever changing mind and body going from life to life. So, but is it you? As for you, it is as you are now you. There's nothing outside of that. Yeah. Okay. Wait.
Very short comment.
Oh, good.
I take heart that my doubt about the cosmology of Buddhism is not going to be a wrong view because it doesn't make the whole teaching fall apart.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But the rest, I embrace.
Are you trying to convince yourself? You don't need to convince me. No, I'm just joking.
No. What I mean is, I think my doubt is a healthy doubt.
Absolutely.
But
there's different kinds of doubt. Actually, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, we can have doubt about if it's doubt about, for example, really not healthy doubt is I cannot do this. You don't have enough wisdom that I don't understand Buddhist teachings, or big doubt for a lot of we're talking about hindrances, nivaranas. Hindrances, I cannot meditate. I cannot. Everybody else can meditate, but I cannot meditate. That is actually really what hinders you on the path. So make sure that don't have that kind of doubt. Doubt about rebirth, I'm fine. Doubt about cosmology, fine. Who cares? This is just it's just about this kind of like doctrinal ideas, which like we don't have to take the raft. The teachings are raft, takes us in it like cross the stream, but this kind of doubt, which are really the hindrance for you to get into the deep meditations, are the doubts of like I cannot do this, for example, or you better. But most likely, a lot of people don't have that kind of idea. But doubt itself it's a hindrance. Yeah, be careful with that.
Yeah.
You can do it. Okay, we don't have that much time left, so I'll continue a little bit about samsara, because then 10:30 we have a lunchtime again. So I don't know how many. Looks like I'm not going to get far in this word of the Buddha piece, which is fine. So samsara. Anybody knows the word samsara? Samsara is this cycle of death and birth. Again, do we have to believe in rebirth? No, but again, Buddha talks about it everywhere. This is a synonym for rebirth. This samsara is without beginning. A first point is not found in the beings roaming and wandering on, blinded by delusion and addicted to wanting. What do you think is more? Which is more? The stream of tears that you have wept as you roamed and wandered on through your many lives, weeping and wailing because of enduring the disagreeable and not getting what you want, this or the water in all the great oceans. For a long time you have experienced grief through the death of loved one or of dear friend, or loss of reputation or wealth. As you have experienced this weeping and wailing because of enduring despair and not getting what you want, the stream of tears that you have wept is more than the water in all the great oceans. Which do you think is more? The stream of blood that you have shed when you were beheaded as you roamed and wandered on through this long course, this or the water in all the great oceans. For a long time you have been arrested as murderers, burglars or adulterers, and when you were beheaded, the stream of blood that you shed is greater than the water in all the great oceans. For what reason? This samsara is without beginning. A first point is not found of beings who, blinded by delusion and addicted to wanting, are journeying through this round of rebirth and death. Even just one person wandering on through their many lives, blinded by delusion and addicted to wanting, would leave him behind a stack of bones, a heap of bones, a mass of bones as large as Himalayas. If there were someone to collect them all, what was collected would not, and what was collected would not perish. For what reason? Because this samsara is without a beginning. Okay. Hang on. There. I'm trying to move this. Sorry. For such a long time you have experienced suffering, agony, and disaster, and swelled the cemeteries with bones from your many lives. It is enough to experience revulsion, nibbida, towards all volitional formations, the will. Enough to let go of the cause of more birth. Enough to be liberated from samsara. So these are the reflections we can all have. That's like Conrad was talking about how scary sometimes feels like we could go to hell, and we've definitely been scared the hell out of us from the from me, especially the Christian church. They scare the hell out of me. So I don't want to be there. But the idea of this samsara, this round of rebirth, it is really integral part of what the Buddha was teaching. And then sometimes people, they come to Buddhism and it's like, you can take it as lightly as you want. You don't need to grasp it tightly and it's like sort of like, I'm heading towards Nibbana no matter what. You can just take it as a stress reduction. You can take it as I'm just practicing mindfulness meditation. That's good enough. And you call yourself Buddhist, good enough. But once you start really looking into the Buddhist teachings, you can see that the Buddha was talking about over and over again. He was talking about the dukkha, suffering. No matter where you look, there is no, he always talks about how you end this suffering and how danger it is to be just thinking that it's this life alone. And then if you just think about this life alone, it's probably not enough for you to be sort of taking you out of this cycle of rebirth. The word here, nibbida, Ajahn Brahm's translation as revulsion, it is a good translation because it's really you start getting revolted by this. We think there's like, oh, this body is so wonderful, I'm so handsome, beautiful. But then you start really looking into it, how the old age, the sickness part, how that is sort of like how beautiful it is to get old and sick. Where you start getting this kind of revulsion even for this body. It was like, I don't want to have another body. That's the point of this kind of contemplation. Contemplations really are quite an integral part of in this path where you bring this, instead of just not looking the ugliness of life, you just sort of like, yeah, I can see. No, like the Ajahn Chah said one time, nobody wants to look at the old people. Everybody wants to look at the young people. And it is reality. It is the truth. We want to see the youthfulness, beauty in the world. We don't want to see the opposite of it. And then it's the same with the cycle of rebirth, and how it's, when you start looking at it, you start getting this revulsion. You really start turning away from the rebirth process, because if you don't look at it like that, it's just sort of like, life is okay. What's the problem? I'm not suffering so much. Like if I talk to my mom now, who's the carer for my father, primary care and soul care, basically. Nobody comes to even our home. Mom is doing everything for Dad now. And I said, like, look, Buddhism, we teach everything is suffering. And she was like, what are you talking about? It's not so much suffering. And yet she's really tired and really sad about what happened to her husband, my dad. And it's hard to see this thing, what the Buddha was teaching. But as a meditator, as a practitioner, as a Buddhist, so to speak, we just sort of like, you have to look at it squarely and said, like, I'm not liberated from this. I can see that even here and now, whether the rebirth exists or not, I can see sicknesses and old age here and now. and the death also will come. So it takes away this kind of like this idea of like, well, I don't need to practice, I just enjoy to the max, and then whatever comes will come, I don't have to worry about it. That's part of the idea, is like, why do we practice now? Because we know it's ahead of us. We do know that we will get sick in some point. We'll know that the death will come. So we need to practice now, and if you practice kindness, that will follow you into those moments. If you practice contentment, that will follow you into those moments, and then you are more at ease. Even if it's slightly bit more at ease with those moments, it makes a tremendous difference. Same with what is like, what's the point of giving? Why do we give? Why do we care about others? Because in those moments, it really makes a difference when you're being a person who's have been generous. In those moments, you can accept somebody else taking care of you because you've done it yourself. If you just were this person who was like wasn't able to care about others, well then when you are in that moment when somebody else has to wipe your bum, so to speak, you are not okay with it because you never did it. You didn't have to wipe everybody, somebody else's bum, but you can practice it in some other way of caring, and then you are more okay with it, even if it's a little bit. We all know how difficult, well, perhaps you haven't had that experience, but it is really difficult to lose your independence. Really, really difficult. Meaning somebody else will turn you around, put your clothes on, all that. You feel like you are burdened. But if you've been a practicing person, you don't have to take a label of being Buddhist, but a practicing person who's practiced kindness and generosity in taking care of others, then you are at least a little bit more at ease with it. But anyways, the idea here, the nibbida, the turning away when you start seeing your own body, it's just like, I have this, I'm not liberated from that. You start getting, sometimes I use the translation quite often, turning away. You start turning away from this. It's like, I don't want to do it again and then again and then again. I'm tired of this. The revulsion in that sense is like the Buddha actually used a simile. He's like, you think you have this beautiful shawl, this like, you put a fur around your neck, but then you see it as a carcass. You just don't know, like, you don't want to have it around your neck. It's just, you're repulsed by that. That's how he uses the nibbida. Wow, there's positive thinking, but again, I mean, this is basic Buddhism. And after lunch, we are going to the origin of the suffering. Where does the suffering start? Now we're just talking about suffering. 2 days, whole one day yesterday and this morning, we've been just talking about suffering. But hopefully this afternoon, we will start, like, what is the origin? Where does this suffering begin with? Like, what's the origin of all of this for us going around in the samsara? So that's where we're going after lunch. So I don't want to start that now because I have to go for the lunch time and all that. But just so you know, that will start in the afternoon, 12 o'clock. So I think I end it there. I think it's good time now. So I will go for lunch and hope I see you again. Hopefully I wasn't turned you away from these teachings. Thank you so much. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.